thank you both for joining us again. So what we'd like to go through today is some insights for other product leaders out there. There's a lot of insights in there. There's a lot of information people can gain from you. So I'll pass the question over to both of you. What trends are you both seeing currently in the product landscape?
This is a hard one. There's so many trends. Different trends when I talk to people starting their career, different trends. But I'll just try to, hopefully it's not too blind. I'll condense it to two things. I think in technology, there's a flight to better products and better customer experiences for customers. I believe that people are seeing technology more and more like utility, like experiences. It just has to work. You know, when we started out playing with technology earlier on, like it was so unreliable. You had to know so much. You had to troubleshoot everything from like disk to RAM, all kinds of crazy stuff we used to do to interact with technology. But now people just want it to work. It has to be app-like. And so there's a flight to better customer experiences. I think this is important to succeed. We always think about building value as software companies. I think this is a huge long-term trend. Even the word PLG is really about customer focus. Obviously, AI is a super big thing. And people, it's not what people think it is. It's exciting. It's intelligent. It does crazy stuff for you. But I think what's important is that it will replace a bunch of core software that is now too dumb in comparison to it. And that's going to be huge. It's like we're about to see a whole refurbishment. It's like rebuilding a house. I think that's what's going to happen with AI, and I think it's going to be amazing. I believe that the future of tech is probably the confluence of those two things, which is a really important focus on the customer and reliability of just working and looking great, having great customer experience, but also of AI being at the core of it, literally at the core, sort of policing and making it more intelligent, making it more valuable. I think those two things are going to probably govern the future for a long time.
So what I'll add to that is if we really back out and think about the macroeconomic environment, I think that the macroeconomic environment where people are seeking efficient growth is forcing product to get much closer, not just to the consumer or the user, but to the market, an understanding, a true understanding of the market you're in. So I see a need, like when I think about the trends we're seeing in the product landscape, I know we've always talked about being close to customers, et cetera, but I see this need for maturing into understanding how the market is being shaped. There is a leaning more into the commercialization aspect of what it is product people do. So that's something I think is here to stay. Like, why are we doing what we're doing? Have we reached that place of diminishing returns in the new feature or the thing we're building, and is it really actually going to have impact and value for the customer as well as for our business? It's just being better stewards. The second one I say is actually a good thing, which is there's going to be much more demand for product people. Again, as most of you have heard, software is eating the world, and the reality is that as many companies are not just using software as a tool, but are using it as a way to actually serve their customers. So even apartment complexes have their own apps now, right? So when you think about that, software is everywhere. So when software is everywhere, you need people who can help build the right software for everywhere and everything and all the different industries that you may not have thought you'd need software in. So that means there is a huge demand for product managers, but it also means it will redefine and in some ways may change the shape of what we understand product management to be. Like we said, it's an art and it is a science. So the science will probably stay the same, but the art of product management will begin to be shaped by the different industries that are product management in them. So that's a trend I see.
Awesome. Great to hear from both of you.
I want to say one thing, I think, just to sort of plus one what Ezinne said about product and the market. We've come up with what we think is a really good definition of product management and what its purpose, and it is to match both customer delight but also business performance.
To maximize
And and to maximize both. You can't just do one or the other. Like if you do just customers, you grow, maybe eventually start growing a little less because you're not thinking about what creates demand, what feeds your business model. And the fact is you need to be a successful company in order to serve your customers, so you need to pay attention to it. But if you also focus all your time on business model and not your customers, you start to, sort of kill the golden goose. Eventually you'll have slower growth. Eventually your demand will stop. Eventually people will churn because they don't have what they want, and so on and so forth. So it's really, our job is to maximize both of them. And the very best product leaders are people who think about both things, who think about what game are they playing now? Is it a short-term game? Is it a long-term game? How do we maximize it given the game that we're playing? So that's, I just love that she brought that up, and I thought that was very thoughtful.
Nice. Definitely some great insights there for product leaders. Definitely some great trends from both your opinions. I guess the next question is something that everybody likes to hear. What are your unpopular opinions about the future of product?
I'll start, and it's actually a very unpopular opinion that I'm working through myself. I don't even know if Oji knows this. I listened to Brian Chesky's podcast with Lenny on this very popular podcast, and we talked about how Airbnb was separating the art and science of product management, and having it such that the program aspect, the project management aspect, what many people call POs, was really pushed and separated from the art and the commercial nature. And I think that there's some truth here, specifically because of AI. I think that we may begin to see this separation more and more. And it's no longer the art science of product management, it's the art, the business, and the science of product management, where product management probably gravitates more towards the art and business and this separation. So and I think that AI accelerates or exacerbates this, because some of that science piece can be done over and over and over with AI. So I haven't formed this opinion fully, but you asked for something that's unpopular, and that's kind of where I am today. And I'm a growth mindset type person, so you could ask me 2 weeks from now and I may have changed my position, but I do think that there's something there.
She's right. I haven't heard this one because I debated vigorously. But I'm also super open-minded. I feel like our profession will have to change to adapt to what's happening. But I have maybe a spicy take on an unpopular opinion. I think that one very popular opinion right now with AI, just because we're where we are in evolution, is that it's going to be text-based. Where ChatGPT feels like a model that feels universal. You type things to it, and it gives you back some other stuff. And also, if you look at the Humane AI Pin or the Rabbit R1, you start to see voice being the main interface, and like people seem to be advocating that it's the next evolution of the interface of computing. And I think my take is that I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I think that we will keep using screens. Now, this is not to say that we won't use voice or text. We always have. And even as far back as almost like 20 years ago at Microsoft, we were so into what we call natural user interfaces, which was voice and text. Actually, mostly voice. They will become more important. But the reason I'm betting on screens is that, the visual cortex is the largest part of our brain, frankly, processing what our eyes see. And it's such a superpower. You can see a snippet of a picture of a friend and you're like, yep, that's the person. And I think that we'll continue to use that superpower as we interface with computers. And also screens allow multitasking. It's really hard to multitask when you're talking to a computer. You can't do 2 or 3 things, but screens allow you to do that. So I sort of believe that we still need to simplify AI a little more and take away some of the burden of typing and so on and so forth. So that's one of the things I believe.
Wicked. Thank you very much. So what we'd like to now do is give some more insights to product leaders, like we mentioned. So what is the piece of advice that you both received throughout your careers? So it could be really recently, it could be right at the start of your career. What piece of advice do you remember that's made the biggest impact on your career?
Is there you want to?
Yeah, let me. This is funny. I'm gonna give credit to Oji on this. I have to say, but I think the thing that actually did change, it wasn't early. It's just a thing that he said often and often that I've begun to internalize is this idea that he said. I think he says heads of state are just about the same age as you are, right? And I think it's that nobody was born with 2, 3, 4 heads. They figure it out, right? And they weren't born to be heads of state, or except maybe in the case of the royals, right? But it's that I have it within me. I think it sounds very weird to say that, but there's no question, no challenge, nothing that is being put in front of me that can't be overcome, either with wits, with perseverance, or through the help of others around me. And really internalizing that has had a huge impact on my career. I either can find it within myself, go research it, or find friends or bring people alongside, but there's a way out of it. And I think that's really impacted my career. I've heard it in different places throughout my entire career, but I think having a partner that you're living with that reminds you of that has really been very helpful, because on days where you forget, you have that person reminding you. And so it's not one person, but it's this steady thing of you can figure it out no matter what. And there will always be obstacles. The question is, do you want to go around it or through it?
Great. And Oji, yourself, what stands out to you? Because it's going to be hard to top that one.
No, isn't that response is making me very emotional. And she knows I don't get very emotional easily. So I will say that the thing I'm about to say is also, I learned it. I had a moment of epiphany. I don't know how that happened. Sorry, I know I'll explain in a second. But I also want to say that this is how she is, and she has always been. And so, I don't know, maybe I learned it from her or watching her. And the thing that didn't have the biggest impact on my career is try to make an emotional impact before you try to make an intellectual impact. It sounds trite, but people will remember how you made them feel before they remember whether you impressed them with how smart you are. And the early part of my career, because it was so competitive, I spent all my time trying to prove that I had the intellectual chops to be where I was. Black, places where no one looked like me, etc. And early in my career, I chased patents. So I was like, okay, how creative can I be? How many new ideas can I give birth to in this world? But eventually I figured out the greatest secret is try to connect with people's hearts before the brain. And honestly, I don't know if this is good career advice or just good life advice, but I consider it good life advice. So, but I will say that, Ezinne embodies this all the time. And I only do it maybe 20% of the time.
No, maybe 25. No, I'm kidding. No, he doesn't. He does more.
No, it's great to hear. And I could say from when I met you as you do light up the room. You do remember that connection behind 100%. So I completely resonate. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And okay, cool. So there's definitely a lot of insights here. Good to get into both of your brains about the trends within product. In your upcoming book, where would I direct product leaders to find out more about trends in the market and more of the insights that you both have to provide?
So we do. Oh, go ahead, Oji.
No, you had a thought ready to go. So
I'm just saying, we do talk about quite a bit of this in the book itself, in terms of what trends we're seeing and this idea of software eating the world and the value of product across multiple fields. So you'll see that in the book. And And we have a podcast type thing that we'll also be making available, that we talk about AI and all the interesting things we think will impact products. So, and I hope I didn't spill the beans on something I shouldn't have.
Not at all. Not at all. No, we got to get all the word out. This is modern PR.
Amazing. Well,
so I will say that the book is really organized in three sort of big categories. One is what is fundamentally behind the success of product management, which is up and to the right, product-led growth, or customer really aware product building in software companies, which is up and to the right. And then the second part is do PLG, do this customer centered thing, like all the big things you have to think about to get it right in today's world, especially if you're a founder, but even if you're in a mid-market company. And actually, the third part of the book is lead this. So if you're a leader, how are you building the best teams that do this well? How are you thinking about the connection to the business that we've already talked about? And in that section is where product leaders will probably have a feast, because Ezinne and I have thought about so many different things, like how do you think about competitive advantage? How, as a SaaS company or even just a technology company, what are the different levers you have to use for growth? How do you think about your product system, like the organizing principle of a really well-run team? And so these are some of the things in the third section of the book. By the way, one of the things that we will experiment with the book is we will try to have sort of a freemium edition. So we really want, we're not trying to get rich on this book. We just want it to be consumed. And so there'll be a version of the book that is free as an air, but there'll be regular editions that you can buy off Amazon and so on and so forth, with especially that third section, because it's really about leadership. So we're very excited. I think people will learn new things for them that will help them build amazing things.